Welcome to this presentation on orbital muscles and their innervation. When we think about the orbital muscles, we're going to have two groups of muscles. The major group would include 6 muscles that actually attach to the eye and move the eye. And then the other group is a one muscle group. And we'll be able to look at these muscles individually as we work through this presentation. We'll also want to understand their innervation and their actions when they are activated to shorten. This is very useful in the physical examination of extraocular movements to determine whether or not their innervation remains intact. And we'll explore this in much greater detail when we get to the cranial nerve lecture. We're first going to focus on the 6 muscles that attach to the eyeball. Those are shown here on the image on the screen. We have 2 muscles that are obliquely oriented, the superior oblique and the inferior oblique. And then the other 4 muscles that attach to the eyeball are recti muscles. And members of the recti component here would be the superior rectus, inferior rectus, medial rectus, and the lateral rectus. So let's explore these in greater detail so you have an understanding of their orientation within the orbit and the manner in which they attach to the eyeball. Here we're looking at the superior oblique. We're looking at the medial aspect of the orbit. We see the origin here from the annular tendon, and it'll course on the medial upper side of the orbit, and then it will run through a pulley-like structure, and that is referred to as the trochlea, and that's in the upper medial corner of your orbit. And then once it passes through the trochlea, it will then course laterally and posteriorly to attach to the eyeball. The counterpart here is the inferior oblique, and it's very difficult to discern it in relationship to the other extraocular muscles here, but we can see the insertion point of the inferior oblique on the inferior aspect of the eyeball, and it too kind of courses obliquely along the inferior eyeball to the lateral posterior side of the eyeball. Our next muscle is the first muscle that belongs to the recti group. This is the superior rectus, and you can see the superior rectus attaching to the superior surface of the eyeball at this particular point. The next rectus member is shown down in through here. This is our inferior rectus. It will attach to the eyeball on the inferior aspect. Here is our medial rectus on the medial side of the orbit, attaching to the medial aspect of the eyeball at this particular point. And then your lateral rectus is shown here on the lateral side of the orbit, and it is attaching to the lateral aspect of the eyeball at this particular point. The 7th member of the extraocular muscles of the orbit does not attach to the eyeball itself. Instead, this muscle attaches to the superior eyelid and thus is able to elevate it or to allow it to depress or go into a closed position. This muscle is referred to as the levator palpebrae superioris, and we will abbreviate that with the acronym LPS. So now let's take a look at this particular muscle. And we have 2 views of the levator palpebrae superioris. Here on the left side of the image, we see the levator palpebrae superioris in an intact state. And then we see its insertion going into the upper eyelid at this point. Over here on the right side of the image, we see that the levator palpebrae superioris has been cut and reflected. And so we see the distal aspect of the levator here being reflected upwards, and then we see its point of origin down below. And then the superior rectus is the muscle that we see in through here.